Today I want to talk to you about a drill that I use with intermediate to advanced climbers that I call the trailing focus drill. A lot of what I try to do when I'm coaching movement with people is get them to develop more limb independence. And limb independence is the idea that you can connect during movements to each of your limbs. So for most people, that's going to be two arms and two legs, and get each of those limbs to do what you want it to do, which hopefully is going to be contribute in some way to the movement goal at hand. Now, a lot of moves that we do when we're beginners are going to involve one hand and two footholds. One hand and two footholds, very stable combination. Almost always going to have that nice triangle. As we climb harder and harder things, it's harder for us to have that same triangle. Either one of the holds or more than one of the holds is really bad, so we can't put a lot of weight on it, or we have to use it in some specific subtle way. Or we have fewer than three holds. Sometimes we're only connected by a handhold and a foothold. Sometimes during the move, we're only connected by a handhold, and with a lot of modern Cordo type climbing, we might not be connected at all, or we might be intermediately connected by a foothold and then disconnected and then connected again. So there's all these like permutations and combinations, but to break it down to its simplest form, what we usually have is a hand that we're pulling with, a primary foot that we're pulling with or pushing on, a secondary foot, which is usually doing something to create stability. So it could be flagging into the wall somehow, or it could be swinging to create power. And then we have the hand that we're reaching with. And one thing that you'll notice a lot if you watch elite climbers climb is they're very good at continuing to create power with the hand that they're reaching with throughout the entire move that they're doing. Now, a lot of the time when the holds get really bad, so if your primary hand and your primary foot are quite poor, you're not going to be able to just over-index on that and pull even harder on it in order to accomplish the move, right? Otherwise, we would all just lock it off and chalk up our hand and reach for the hold. So if your primary hold is really bad, you're going to really need to get a lot of juice out of that secondary hand. And that's why I call it the trailing focus drill, is because that hand is the one that's trailing behind. You have your primary hand that you're probably the most focused on, and then this hand that you're about to let go of, it's kind of trailing below that primary hand, but that's what we want you to focus on during this drill. So let's look at some real world examples on my board. I finally have my board set up so I can do these videos now. And I will show you what it looks like if you don't need any trailing focus, what it looks like if you don't use any trailing focus, and what it looks like if you really focus on engaging that trailing hand. It's going to be a subtle difference, but hopefully you can keep up with me. I'll try to make it really visible for you from over there. Let's say that I have these two good holds here, and my foot is on this pretty good foothold. So, perfect world, I would also have a right foot. I'm stable in this position. I can reach up to the target. I don't need to use my left arm at all. Next step would be, let's say I don't have that right foot. So this is removing the triangle that I was talking about before. So now my right foot just pushes into the wall quite a bit harder, but I can still create that power with just my right arm. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this little kind of sloping edge hold to do the same move. And what I would expect to happen is that the move up with my left hand is going to become quite a bit more difficult. Now I might still be able to kind of lock that move off, but I'm going to be able to index a lot more on my left hand, which in this case is my trailing hand, and keep pulling and even pushing through that hand throughout the entire movement. So I'll try not to use the left hand much. And like I would have expected, quite a bit of pop, kind of snagging the hold at the end of the range. And then I'll show you what it looks like if I really try to pull with that left arm through the entire movement. Okay, so that actually made me so powerful that I could have reached several bolts beyond where I was trying to go. Probably because this is actually a very good hold. So if you have a good understanding of how to do what I'm talking about in this drill, you're going to be able to just make great use out of a big hold. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now that I've run the problem and just seen what it's like, I'm going to climb it, and what I'm going to try to do is focus as much of my effort as I can on the primary hand. So if I'm moving my right hand, I'm gonna try as hard as I can to do the move using my left hand. Basically the opposite of the drill. Let's see how it goes. Not bad. Unsurprisingly, pretty hard. Now, if you watch that, what you'll probably notice is I shifted my hips under the primary hand a lot. And if you can own whatever the handhold is, that's going to be a very effective strategy for moving pretty economically. With a lot of technical drills, it's not about there being a right or wrong way to do things, especially when it comes to drills where we're trying to develop limb independence. It's just about being able to do things different ways and improving your mind-body connection, just being familiar with how your body moves and what you can get it to do. On this rep, what I am going to try to get my body to do is to focus as much as I can on doing the move by pulling with the hand that I'm also reaching with. It's going to look a little bit more snappy, a little bit more powerful. Counterintuitively, I'm going to do a little bit more of the movement from my hips because I'm not going to own the positions based on the primary hold quite as much. So let's rewatch a couple of those moves and see what's happening when I pull with the hand that I'm reaching with, that trailing hand. Instead of finding a purely stable triangle just based on the primary hand, I'm actually getting myself to pull into the wall and then reach and then stretch a little bit. So I'm actually getting this full stretch cycle where I flex and extend and then flex that hand that I'm reaching with. And I think that's a really powerful thing to become aware of in your climbing. So give that drill a try. Let me know what you think.